The Ari. 1. A human angel. There are a select number of individuals who live on a plane so high above the rest of humanity that it seems as if they are a completely different, higher species of being. They teach, but we grasp but little, and from the few crumbs that we glean, we can build mountains. Such a person was Rabbi Isaac Luria, renowned as the greatest Kabbalist of modern times. Rabbi Isaac Luria is commonly known as the Ari, an acronym standing for Elohi Rabbeinu Yitzchak, the godly Rabbi Isaac. No other master or sage ever had this extra letter, standing for Elohi, godly, prefaced to his name. This was a sign of what his contemporaries thought of him. Later generations, fearsome that this appellation might be misunderstood, said that this aleph stood for Ashkenazi, indicating that his family had originated in Germany, as indeed it had. But the original meaning is the correct one, and to this day, among Kabbalists, Rabbi Isaac Luria is only referred to as the Holy Ari. It is relatively easy for a great leader to become a legendary figure centuries after his death. There are even cases where people become legends in their time, especially to the masses who never get too close to them. But usually, the closer one gets to the legend, the more it wanes, until those closest to him see the legendary character as little more than a gifted human being, if that. In the case of the Ari, the exact opposite is true. His closest disciple, Rabbi Chaim Vital, who spent days and nights with him, saw him as nothing less than a human angel. In one place, there is a responsum that Rabbi Joseph Caro sent to the Ari. The Ari is inquiring about an involved legal problem involving a quasi-partnership, where one partner dies and the merchandise is lost. The great Joseph Caro answers like a student before his master, hanging on to every word of the Ari's question. One must remember that at this time, Caro's monumental code, the Beit Yosef, had already been printed, and he was considered one of the foremost leaders of that period. Characteristically, he writes with the greatest of authority, even to the foremost luminaries of that generation. Yet, before the Ari, he is totally subjected, both spiritually and intellectually. There are also legends that Caro wished to enroll as a disciple of the Ari in Kabbalah, but was discouraged. The Ari said that Caro was meant to be an authority in law and not in mysticism. The teachings of the Ari were afforded status as a primary authority, on the same level as the Zohar itself. Every custom of the Ari was scrutinized, and many were accepted, even against previous practice. The great Polish codifier, Rabbi Abraham Gombiner, author of the Magen Avraham, Shield of Abraham, takes the Ari's personal customs as legally binding precedents. In deciding disputes that had remained unresolved for centuries, he often cites the Ari's custom as the final authority. The fact that the Ari had acted in a certain manner was enough to convince this tough-minded legalist that this was the correct opinion. The Ari was born in Jerusalem in 1534, and it is said that Elijah himself attended his circumcision ceremony. By the time he was 8, he was recognized as a wonder child, a prodigy who already outshone the greatest minds of Jerusalem. At this tender age, when most children are just beginning to read, he had already mastered the intricacies of the Talmud and had committed dozens of volumes to memory. Had he remained nothing more than a Talmudic scholar, he would have joined the ranks of the greatest of all times. The Ari's father died while he was still a young child, and since she was unable to support the family, his mother went to Egypt, where they lived with her brother, Mordechai Francis, a wealthy tax agent. The young prodigy was placed under the tutelage of Rabbi Bezalel Ashkenazi, best known for his important Talmudic commentary, the Shita Mekubetzet, Embracing System. There is also evidence that the young lad also studied under the great Radbaz, who was then the chief rabbi of Cairo. According to a reliable account, the Ari himself also wrote a large Talmudic commentary around this time. Having thoroughly mastered the maze of Talmudic thought, the Ari discovered the Zohar when he was 17, obtaining his own manuscript copy. But even more important were the 15 years that he spent in meditation, first with Rabbi Bezalel and then by himself. It is not certain what methods he used, but it is known that both the Radbaz and Rabbi Chaim Vital were aware of Abulafia's works and speak highly of them. Another interesting link that needs exploration involves Rabbi Joseph Tzayach, whom we have already discussed at length. It is known that at least two of Tzayach's major works were dedicated to Abraham Castro, who was master of the mint in Egypt. From the wording of his dedication, it appears that, besides being a major philanthropist, Castro was looked upon as a saint and a Kabbalist of major proportions. There are also indications that Castro had founded a secret school in Egypt based on Tzayach's teachings. When we couple this with the fact that it was Castro who gained the Radbaz's appointment as chief rabbi of Cairo, and that the Radbaz corresponded with Tzayach, we see an important link. The Ari was associated with the Radbaz's school, and he studied with his major disciple, Rabbi Bezalel Ashkenazi. This school, however, seemed to have an intimate relationship with Joseph Tzayach. It would certainly be very significant to discover a link between the Ari and Tzayach, but no direct evidence exists. While the style of the Ari exhibits the same detailed intricacy as Tzayach, the Ari's system is built entirely upon the Zohar, while Tzayach apparently avoids the Zohar completely. Still, the Ari almost certainly knew of Tzayach's teachings, and the connection between the two should be further explored. The most important meditative practice of the Ari involved the Zohar itself. Rabbi Chaim Vital presents evidence that the Ari would spend days and sometimes weeks engrossed in a single passage in the Zohar, remaining with it until he had grasped its deepest meaning. While it is entirely possible that this was a purely intellectual exercise, it is also highly possible that the Ari used passages of the Zohar like a mantra, just as others used passages from the Bible and Mishnah. The states induced by such meditation would have resulted in precisely the Zohar consciousness that is evident throughout the Ari's teachings. The Ari spent 2 years meditating alone in a hut near the Nile, and at the end of this period, he received a command to go to the Holy Land, according to legend, from the lips of Elijah the prophet. Without discounting this legend completely, we can also speculate that the Radbaz also exerted some influence in this area. This ancient sage had left for the Holy Land in 1553 and was already in Tzfat at the time. There is no question that he knew both the Ramak and Rabbi Chaim Vital, both of whom were among the world's leading Kabbalists. Perhaps the Radbaz realized that bringing the Ari together with these forces would have the effect of raising the Kabbalah to unprecedented heights, as indeed it did. In any case, the Ari arrived in Tzfat during the summer of 1570 and began by concealing his gifts completely. He was only there a short time when the Ramak died on June 26, 1570, the 23rd of Tammuz, 5330. According to legend, the Ramak had already decided that the Ari would succeed him as leader of the Tzfat school, and this was pointed out by a pillar of fire that followed the Ramak's bier. There are clear indications that around this time, Rabbi Chaim Vital was deeply involved in his commentary on the Zohar and was not aware of the Ari at all. Rabbi Chaim might have been in Damascus at the time, aware neither of the Ari's coming nor of the Ramak's demise. He writes that he did not see the Ari until 6 months after he had arrived in Tzfat, and that one reason was that he initially thought that his own knowledge of the Kabbalah was superior to that of the Ari. All that it took, however, was a single meeting, and Rabbi Chaim was convinced of the Ari's awesome stature. It was not long before he begged to become the latter's disciple. According to our best estimates, the initial meeting between the Ari and Rabbi Chaim Vital took place in February of 1571. It was at this time that the Ari informed him that he had come from Egypt specifically to teach him, and that this was one of the most important tasks in life. From that time on, the two were inseparable. It is difficult to imagine the amount of information that passed between the two. According to his own accounts, Rabbi Chaim was a disciple of the Ari for less than 18 months, and during this period he gained a complete mastery of the Ari's system. The writings that Chaim Vital produced in this field encompass over a dozen large volumes, each one intricately compiled and written in an extremely terse style. It is from this that we can understand the genius of these two individuals, as well as their high spiritual level. The Ari passed away on July 15, 1572, the 5th of Av, 5332, barely 2 years after he had arrived in Tzfat. During his brief stay there, he had assembled a group of approximately a dozen disciples, with Chaim Vital at their head, and they continued to review his teachings. For the most part, it was Rabbi Chaim who put them into writing. The main works are the Eitz Chaim, Tree of Life, and Pre-Eitz Chaim, Fruit of the Tree of Life, as well as the 8 Gates, which deal with everything from Bible commentary to divine inspiration and reincarnation. Sources. The Ari's father died while he was still a child. Because of poverty, he went to Egypt, where he lived with his wealthy uncle. His brilliance continued to shine in dialectic, pilpul, and logic. By the time he was 15, his expertise in Talmud had overwhelmed all the sages in Egypt. At this time, he married his uncle's daughter. After he was married, he spent 7 years meditating, hitboded, with his master, Rabbi Betzalel Ashkenazi. He then meditated alone for 6 years. He then added to this, meditating and reaching higher levels of holiness. This he did for 2 years straight, in a house near the Nile. There he would remain alone, utterly isolated, not speaking to any human being. The only time he would return home would be on the eve of the Sabbath, just before dark. But even at home, he would not speak to anyone, even to his wife. When it was absolutely necessary for him to say something, he would say it in the least possible number of words, and then he would speak only in the holy tongue, Hebrew. He progressed in this manner and was worthy of Ruach HaKodesh. At times, Elijah revealed himself and taught him the mysteries of the Torah. He was also worthy for his soul to ascend every night, and troops of angels would greet him to safeguard his way, bringing him to the heavenly academies. These angels would ask him which academy he chose to visit. Sometimes it would be that of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and other times he would visit the academies of Rabbi Akiva or Rabbi Eliezer the Great. On occasion, he would also visit the academies of the ancient prophets. When Rabbi Chaim Vital first began to learn with the Ari, he could not grasp any of his teachings and would forget everything that he would learn. Then, one day, the two took a small boat to Tiberias. When they passed the pillars of an ancient synagogue, the Ari took a cup of water from the sea and gave it to Rabbi Chaim to drink. He said, "Now that you have drunk this water, you will grasp this wisdom, since the water is from Miriam's well." From then on, Rabbi Chaim was able to grasp the Ari's teachings. Source from Rabbi Chaim Vital. In every generation, there were exceptional individuals who were worthy of Ruach HaKodesh. Elijah revealed himself to these individuals and taught them the mysteries of this wisdom, Kabbalah. This is found many places in the books of the Kabbalists. In his discussion of the priestly blessing, Rabbi Menachem Rekanati writes, Elijah had revealed himself to Rabbi David, head of the rabbinical court, and had taught him the wisdom of the Kabbalah. He taught this to his son, the Ra'avad, Rabbi Abraham ben David of Poskeres, and he also experienced a revelation of Elijah. The tradition was passed to his son, Rabbi Isaac the blind, who was blind from birth, and to him Elijah also revealed himself. He gave the tradition to his two disciples, the first being Rabbi Ezra, who wrote a commentary on the Song of Songs, and the second was Rabbi Azriel. From them, it was given over to the Ramban. In his commentary on Maimonides' Code, the Ra'avad himself writes, Ruach HaKodesh has been revealed in our academy for many years. Elsewhere, he likewise writes, This was revealed to me as a mystery of God to those who fear him. But I must also sing praise, for in each generation God's love is with us. In this generation, too, God of the first and last did not withhold such a leader. He sent us an angel, the great, godly, pious rabbi, my master and teacher, our mentor, Rabbi Isaac Luria Ashkenazi, of blessed memory. The Ari was overflowing with Torah. He was thoroughly expert in the Bible, Mishnah, Talmud, Pilpul, Midrash, Agada, workings of creation, and workings of the Merkavah. He was expert in the conversation of trees, the conversation of birds, and the speech of angels. He could read faces in the manner outlined in the Zohar. He could discern all that any individual had done, and could see what they would do in the future. He could read people's thoughts, often before the thought even entered the individual's mind. He knew future events, and was aware of everything happening here on earth, and what was decreed in heaven. He knew the mysteries of reincarnation, who had been born previously, and who was here for the first time. He could look at a person and tell him how he was connected to the supernal man, and how he was related to Adam. He could read wondrous things in the light of a candle or in the flame of a fire. With his eyes, he gazed and was able to see the souls of the righteous, whether those who had died recently or those who had lived in ancient times. With these, he studied the true mysteries. By a person's odor, he was able to know all that he had done, an ability that the Zohar attributes to the Holy Child. It was as if all these mysteries were lying in his bosom, ready to be used whenever he desired. He did not have to meditate, hit boded, to seek them out. All this we saw with our own eyes. These are not things that we heard from others. They were wondrous things that had not been seen on earth since the time of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. None of this was attained through the practical Kabbalah, heaven forbid. There is a strong prohibition against using these arts. Instead, it came automatically, as a result of his piety and asceticism, after many years of study in both the ancient and newer Kabbalistic texts. He then increased his piety, asceticism, purity, and holiness, until he reached a level where Elijah would constantly reveal himself to him, speaking to him mouth to mouth, and teaching him these mysteries. This is the same thing that had happened to the Ra'avad, as Rekanati states. Even though true prophecy no longer exists, Ruach HaKodesh is still here, manifest through Elijah. It is as the prophet Elijah taught his disciples, commenting on the verse, Deborah was a prophetess, Judges chapter 4, verse 4. I call heaven and earth to bear witness that any individual, man or woman, Jew or Gentile, free man or slave, can have Ruach HaKodesh bestowed upon him. It all depends on his deeds. Source from Rabbi Moshe of Prague. There was no one like the Ari since the days of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Furthermore, He revealed to us that he was a reincarnation of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and that his disciples were reincarnations of those of Rabbi Shimon. It is for this reason that when we went to Rabbi Shimon's cave in Meron, he would place them in an appropriate order. He himself would sit in the place of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Rabbi Chaim Vital would be set in the place of Rabbi Eliezer, son of Rabbi Shimon, and Rabbi Benjamin Cohen in the place of Rabbi Abba. The other 7 disciples would be set in the places of the 7 eyes of God, each one in his proper place according to his incarnation. He revealed to us more than any prophet or seer. Even Ezekiel only revealed the mystery of the Merkavah in the universe of Buriah, but the Ari revealed the mysteries of Atzilut, even reaching to the universes of the infinite, which are bonds, dots, and stripes. How great is the good that you have hidden for those who fear you. Psalm 31, verse 20. His level was high above any angel or Magid. He knew all that was on high and below, as well as what was decreed in the tribunal on high, and he could annul these decrees. In many cases, he was able to indicate where the earlier Kabbalists had been mistaken. An example of this is with regard to the 7 sabbatical years. Even the Magid that was revealed to Rabbi Joseph Caro did not know the inner meaning of the Zohar, and was occasionally mistaken. This is because an angel or Magid is only from the universe of Yetzirah, while the soul is from the universe of Buriah. The soul of a tzaddik, saint, however, can also be from the universe of Atzilut. The soul of our master, the Ari, was from a level of the Partzuf of Arich Anpin, which is the level of Keter, crown, the highest of Atzilut. 2. The system. The Ari's Kabbalistic system covers literally thousands of pages and pervades virtually every area of thought. It is utterly impossible to adequately summarize it, and attempts to do so are most often one-sided and unsuccessful. Still, there are a number of general principles that are dominant, and these are particularly important in understanding the Ari's system of meditation. The basic elements of the Ari's system are the 10 Sefirot, the 4 universes, and the 5 levels of the soul. These concepts are discussed widely in the Zohar and play an important role in the teachings of such masters as the Ramak. It is upon these older systems that the Ari builds. 3 of the most opaque books of the Zohar are the Sifra Ditzniuta, concealed book, and the Greater and Lesser Idras. In these books, we find ideas that in other Zoharic literature are only alluded to in the vaguest terms. While other sources speak primarily about the Sefirot, here, the discussion revolves around different spiritual entities, the Partzufim, archetype personas. The Ari clarifies the significance of these by revealing the one-to-one relationship that exists between the Partzufim and the Sefirot. While the simpler Kabbalah involving the Sefirot appears to speak of the statics of the highest universes, the system of Partzufim involves their dynamic interactions. When they were first created, the Sefirot were simple points, which could not interact with each other. They could therefore not give anything to each other. All they could do was receive from the infinite being, Ein Sof, and for this reason, at this stage they are called vessels. In order to receive God's light, however, a vessel must in some way be connected to God. The basic difference between the spiritual and the physical is the fact that space does not exist in the spiritual realm. Hence, there is no way in which the Sefirot can be physically connected to God. The only possible relationship is therefore resemblance. In order to receive God's light, the vessel must, at least to some degree, resemble God. This, however, presents a difficulty. If God is the ultimate giver, then the vessel is the ultimate receiver, and the two are then absolute opposites. In order for a vessel to properly receive, it must also give. What is therefore needed is a vessel that can give as well as receive. The ultimate expression of such a vessel is man. If man is to receive God's light, he must first resemble God by being a giver. This is accomplished through keeping God's commandments, thus providing spiritual sustenance to the spiritual universes. Before man can do this, however, he must also resemble God by having both free will and free choice. This is only possible when both good and evil exist. The first stage of creation is called the universe of chaos, Tohu. This is a state where the vessels, which were the primitive 10 Sefirot, could receive God's light, but could neither give nor interact. Insofar as they did not resemble God, these vessels were incomplete, and therefore they could not hold the light. Since they could not fulfill their purpose, they were overwhelmed by the light and shattered. This is the idea of the breaking of vessels. The original vessels were in what is now the universe of Atzilut. When they were shattered, the broken pieces fell to a lower spiritual level, which became the universe of Briah. It is at this level that evil begins to manifest, and its source is in the fragments of the broken vessels. The reason the vessels were originally created without the ability to hold the light was that evil should come into being. This in turn would give man freedom of choice, which, as we have heard, was necessary for the rectification of the vessels. Furthermore, since evil originated in the highest original vessels, it can be rectified and re-elevated to this level. This breaking of vessels is alluded to in the Midrash, which states that God created universes and destroyed them. It is also alluded to in the Torah, in the account of the kings of Edom, at the end of Genesis chapter 36. The death of each of these kings is said to infer the shattering of a particular vessel and its falling to a lower level, such a fall being referred to as death. After having been shattered, the vessels were then rectified and rebuilt into the Partsufim. Each of these Partsufim consists of 613 parts, paralleling the 613 parts of the body, as well as the 613 commandments of the Torah. These Partsufim were then able to interact with each other. More important, they then resembled both man and the Torah. They were therefore able to interact with man through the Torah, and they therefore become givers as well as receivers. In their rectified state as Partsufim, the vessels are then adequate to receive God's light. In the Ari's terminology, this state is called the universe of rectification, Tikkun. He said that the other Kabbalists had only spoken of the universe of chaos, while he was the first to reveal the mysteries of the Partsufim, which are in the universe of rectification. These Partsufim constantly interact with each other in an anthropomorphic manner. It is for this reason that the symbolism of sex, birth, and growth play such an important role in the Ari's system. The earlier Kabbalists spoke of 4 universes, Atzilut, Briah, Yetzirah, and Asiyah, paralleling the 4 letters of the Tetragrammaton. There were also hints of a universe above these 4, corresponding to the apex of the Yud in the Tetragrammaton. The Ramak speaks of this 5th universe and calls it the universe of Tzachtzachim, splendors, but is hard-pressed to find any reference to it in the Zohar. The Ari, however, identified this 5th universe as the realm of another mysterious Partsuf mentioned in the Zohar, Adam Kadmon, first man, the primary Partsuf. Within this 5th universe, there are another 4 levels, again paralleling the 4 letters of the Tetragrammaton. These are the 4 expansions of the Tetragrammaton, usually referred to by their numerical value. Ab, Ab equals 72, Sag equals 63, Ma equals 45, and Ben equals 52. It is these four levels that ultimately manifest themselves in the four letters of the Tetragrammaton, the four lower partsufim of Atzilut, and ultimately in the four universes themselves. In written language, we again find these four levels, this time represented by the accent marks, the vowel points, the letter decorations, tagin, and by the letters themselves. 3. Kavanot. Although the bulk of the Lurianic writings deal with the theoretical Kabbalah, his teachings were by no means confined to theory. An important meditative aspect of the Ari's system involved kavanot, which are specific meditations related to particular practices. These can involve dressing, putting on the talit or tefillin, or the various holiday practices, such as eating matzah on the Passover, or taking the 4 species on Sukkot. Since a person was constantly involved in these religious observances, the kavanot would bring him to a meditative state throughout his daily activities. Particularly important is the formal prayer service, where each word has Kabbalistic significance and is the focus of an entire system of meditations. Many kavanot are discussed among the older Kabbalists, and most of these are based on the Zohar, even though the Zoharic allusions are often very vague. But an important part of the Ari's greatness was his ability to extract the fullest meaning from each word in the Zohar, and therefore, where the Zohar only hints, the Ari is able to present a fully structured meditation. For the most part, these kavanot fit closely into the Ari's theoretical system. To a large degree, these kavanot bring a person into the upper universes and involve combinations of divine names and many gematriot, numerology. They fill 2 large volumes, the Pri Eitz Chaim, Fruit of the Tree of Life, and the Sha'ar HaKavanot, Gate of Kavanot, as well as several smaller texts. These kavanot involve virtually every aspect of life, both religious and mundane. To take only one of thousands of examples, we shall present here the Ari's system of meditations when immersing in the mikvah, ritual pool, before the Sabbath. As we have heard, such immersion played an important role in virtually all the meditative systems, being an essential step in attaining spiritual purity. This meditation can also be compared with a similar one that we shall present from the Baal Shem Tov in the next chapter. Meditation for immersion. This is a meditation for immersing before the Sabbath. After entering the lake, river, or mikvah, but before immersing, meditate on the word mikvah, mem, kuf, vav, hey. Meditate that the mikvah is the mystery of the name Ehyeh, expanded through the letter hey. Aleph, hey, yud, hey. This expansion has a numerical value of 151, and this is also the numerical value of the word mikvah. Just as water is gathered together in a mikvah, the expansions of the name Ehyeh are gathered into this expansion. Now, meditate on the word nachal, meaning stream. This supernal stream consists of 7 names. These are the 4 expansions of the Tetragrammaton: Ab, Sag, Ma, and Ben, together with the 3 expansions of Ehyeh, respectively with the Yud, the Hey, and the Aleph. Ehyeh is Aleph, Hey, Yud, Hey. Bring the mikvah into this stream. Meditate on these 7 names when they are not expanded. Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey 4 times, and Ehyeh 3 times. Each of these contains a single Yud. Therefore, in the 7 names, there are a total of 7 yuds. These 7 names are the mystery of the 7 names of the Sabbath. This is the mystery of the 7 letters Ehyeh, Yud, He, Vav, mentioned in the Zohar. You must meditate on the simple spelling of the 7 names, which contain 7 simple yuds. At the same time, you must also meditate on the expanded forms. To the 7 names, now add the name Yah. This name is the mystery of the Sabbath itself. You have a total of 8 yuds. These 8 yuds, each having a numerical value of 10, add up to 80. This is the numerical value of the letters Nun and Lamed from the word Nachal, the stream. Then include the letter Chet, which represents the 8 yuds themselves. You now have Nachal, the stream. Now, meditate on the yuds in groups. There are 2 such groups, those of Yud and He and Vav and He, and those of Ehyeh. You must therefore meditate on the number 2. The word Nachal has a numerical value of 88. Add this to the 2, and you have 90. This is the numerical value of Mayim, meaning water. In this manner, you have brought water into the mikveh. Now, meditate that all of this should be in honor of the Sabbath, Lichvod Shabbat. Meditate on these 2 words. We have used 8 names. These are the 4 tetragrammatons, the 3 expansions of Ehyeh, and Yah. The original 7 names, each having 4 letters, contain a total of 28 letters. Add this to the 2 letters of Yah, and you have a total of 30 letters. This is the numerical value of the letter Lamed. This is the Lamed of the word Lichvod, meaning in honor of. Now, divide the 8 into 2 groups, the original 7 names and the added name, Yah. This yields the number 2. Add this to the number 30 above, and you have 32. This is the numerical value Kavod, meaning honor. Now, take the expansions of the 7 names together with Yah. The sum of all 8 names is 702, which is the numerical value of the word Shabbat, the Sabbath. Now, immerse. When you emerge from the water, say the verse, "If you rest your foot for the Sabbath." Isaiah, chapter 58, verse 13. Im tashiv mishibat raglecha. 4. Yichudim. The essence of the Ari's meditative system consists of Yichudim, unifications, where one manipulates the letters of various names of God. The word itself indicates a unification, and in general, these meditations consist of unifying 2 or more names. Sometimes the names are intertwined and various vowel points are added. Since the various divine names reflect spiritual forces, and these forces have their counterparts in different parts of the human mind, these Yichudim can have powerful effects in integrating the psyche. At times, this can also be extremely traumatic. As in the case of the Kavanot, many of these Yichudim are alluded to in the Zoharic literature, but little or no indication is provided that these manipulations are actually meditative techniques. It took the genius and inspiration of the Ari to reveal explicitly how they should be used. The idea of unifying God's name is a most ancient one. The Shema, the declaration of faith, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one," Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 4, is often spoken of as the unification of the name. As we have heard, the Zohar provides a specific yichud associated with this verse. On the verse, "You shall attach yourself to God," Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 20, an ancient midrash states that this is a unification of the name, indicating that it is through such unification that one binds himself to the divine. Among the earlier Kabbalists, there are specific references to Yichudim involving combinations of divine names, a clear example being in the writings of Rabbi Isaac of Akko. We have also seen how the Ramak advocates meditating on the various names of God, especially on the tetragrammaton with different vowel points paralleling the 10 Sefirot. In the Ari's system, the Sefirot are no longer seen as independent entities, but as complex interacting partsufim. His system of meditation therefore involves manipulating these names in a manner corresponding to these interactions on high. The exact method of depicting these names is not discussed, but we have spoken of this in the previous chapter. The mind is completely emptied, and the letters are then seen as huge solid bodies, completely filling the mind. Gematriot, involving the numerical value of letters, also plays an important role. The Ari saw the method of Yichudim meditations as being most important to attain true enlightenment. Although other methods exist, the only one specified, if only by allusion in the Zohar, was that of Yichudim, and it was therefore the purest and most effective of them all. While other meditative systems involved the pronunciation of divine names, the system of Yichudim was completely mental, and therefore did not involve the dangers inherent in actually pronouncing names. Still, Yichudim can produce very high meditative states and channel powerful currents of spiritual energy. If improperly used, they can produce effects that are both traumatic and dangerous. Even someone as spiritually advanced as Rabbi Chaim Vital was often overwhelmed by these experiences. Source from Rabbi Chaim Vital. This happened in Tammuz, 5331, August 1571. I had asked my master the Ari to teach me a Yichud so that I should gain enlightenment. He replied that I was not ready. I continued to press him until he gave me a short Yichud, and I got up at midnight to make use of it. I was immediately filled with emotion, and my entire body trembled. My head became heavy, my mind began to swim, and my mouth became crooked on one side. I immediately stopped meditating on that Yichud. In the morning, my master saw me, and he said, "Did I not warn you? If not for the fact that you are a reincarnation of Rabbi Akiva, you would have become insane like Ben Zoma. There would have been no way to help you." He then touched my lips, making use of a kavanah that he knew. He did this each morning for 3 days, and I was healed. On the day before the new moon in Elul, September, he said to me, "Now you are ready." He then gave me a Yichud and sent me to the cave of Abaye, an important sage of the Talmud. On the day before the new moon in Elul, 5331, September 1571, my master sent me to the cave of Abaye and Rava. I fell on the grave of Abaye and meditated with the Yichud involving the mouth and nose of Atika Kadisha, the Holy Ancient One. I fell asleep, and when I woke up, I could see nothing. I then fell on Abaye's grave once again, and made use of another Yichud that I found in a manuscript actually written by my master. This Yichud involved intertwining the letters Yud and He and Vav and He, and Adoshem, as is well known. When I did this, my thoughts became so confused that I could not integrate them. I immediately stopped meditating on this coupling. It then appeared as if a voice in my mind was saying to me, return in you, over and over, many times. I thought to myself, these are the words that Akavya ben Mehalalel said to his son. Then I once again began meditating on this juxtaposition of letters, and I was able to complete the Yichud. It then appeared in my mind as if a voice was quoting to me the verse, God will provide himself a sheep for the burnt offering, my son, Genesis chapter 22, verse 8. It seemed as if this voice was explaining the meaning of that verse. I had been worried that the first Yichud that I had used had not accomplished anything, and this voice was telling me that I had completed it successfully and had benefited from it. This was the significance of the verse, God will provide himself a sheep. It then appeared in my mind as if this voice was explaining that this verse alluded to the first Yichud that I had used. This Yichud involved the names Yud and He and Vav and He and Eheyeh, and the sum of these two names is 47. The initial letters of the verse, God will provide himself a sheep, Elokim Yireh Lo Haseh, Aleph, Yud, Lamed, He, add up to 46, and adding an extra unit yields the same number, 47. The initial letters of a sheep for a burnt offering, my son, Haseh Le'olah B'ni, spell out Hevel, a breath. This is the mystery of the supernal breath upon which I had meditated. It also appeared as if the initial letters of for himself a sheep for a burnt offering, Lo Haseh Le'olah, spelled out the name Hillel, the leading sage of the 1st century BCE. I did not understand the meaning of this, however. All this I imagined in my mind. I then began to tremble, and all my limbs shuddered. My hands vibrated toward each other, and my lips also vibrated in an unusual manner. They trembled very strongly and rapidly. It seemed as if a voice was sitting on my tongue, between my lips. Very rapidly, it repeated the words, "What does he say? What does he say?" These words were repeated over 100 times. I tried to force my lips not to vibrate, but I could not stop them. Then I thought to inquire about wisdom. The voice literally exploded in my mouth and on my tongue, and over 100 times it repeated, "The wisdom, the wisdom." Then it began repeating over and over, "Wisdom and science, wisdom and science." Then the voice repeated the phrase, "Wisdom and science are given to you." And then, "Wisdom and science are given to you from heaven, like the knowledge of Rabbi Akiva." Then it said, "And more than Rabbi Akiva." Then it said, "Like Rabbi Yebi, the elder." Finally, the voice said, "Peace to you." And then, "From heaven, they wish you peace." All of this happened very quickly while I was wide awake. It was a wondrous phenomenon. I then fell on my face, prostrate on the vault of Abaye. When I related this to my master, he told me that I had benefited greatly because I had meditated on these two Yichudim in succession, since this was the proper procedure. The reason that I had not been answered after the first Yichud was that they had waited until I had finished them both. My master later told me that as I walked home that day, he had seen the soul of Benaiah ben Yehoiada accompanying me. He explained that he did not share the same soul root with me, but that he reveals himself to everyone who completes a lofty Yichud. This was what he did while he was alive, as we have discussed elsewhere. 5. Gate of the Holy Spirit. The greatest portion of the Ari's teachings are included in a set of 8 volumes called the 8 Gates. These were written down by Rabbi Chaim Vital and redacted by his son, Samuel Vital. Of these gates, the 7th is the one that explains the Ari's system of Yichudim. This is the Sha'ar Ruach HaKodesh, the gate of the Holy Spirit. As discussed earlier, the term Ruach HaKodesh, Holy Spirit, is a general term for enlightenment and inspiration. It is this volume that describes the Yichudim taught by the Ari through which Ruach HaKodesh could be attained. For the most part, the Yichudim presented in this book were not taught in general terms, but were given to specific individuals. These were usually the Ari's disciples, most often Rabbi Chaim Vital himself. Besides the Yichudim themselves, A general system of disciplines is presented, and these must be fulfilled before one can successfully use the Yichudim. Many of the Yichudim in this book are for specific purposes, such as the rectification of sins, or for such esoteric rites as exorcism. In general, their purpose was to channel spiritual power towards specific ends. This is also true when one seeks enlightenment, since one is then channeling spiritual energy into oneself. The other uses of Yichudim will not be presented here, since they are outside the scope of this book. Here, we will deal specifically with Yichudim designated specifically for enlightenment. A very interesting concept discussed here at length is that of the Magid, the angelic spokesman that we have discussed previously. Here, we not only find a description of a Magid, but also an explanation of the general framework in which it functions. Equally important is the idea of binding oneself to saints who lived in ancient times. It is for this reason that many Yichudim are best accomplished near the graves of such saints, as in the example cited in the previous section. The theory behind this is discussed at considerable length. Excerpts from The Gate of the Holy Spirit. We will begin by explaining the concept of prophecy and Ruach HaKodesh and their various levels. When a person is righteous and pious, studying Torah and praying with kavanah, this must certainly produce something substantial. As the Zohar states, even the sound of one banging a stick is not without effect. One's good practices are certainly not without effect, but result in the creation of angels and holy spirits. These survive and endure, as mentioned in the Zohar. The Talmud likewise teaches, whoever does a good deed earns an advocate. Both good and evil angels are created from a person's speech, depending on his words, as mentioned in the Tikkun Zohar. When a person studies Torah, the words and breath that emanate from his mouth become a vehicle for the souls of the early saints. These can descend and teach that person mysteries, as discussed in the Zohar. All of this, however, depends on one's intent. If a person studies Torah without ulterior motive, then the angel created as a result of such study will be very holy and elevated, and can be trusted to speak the absolute truth. If one reads without error, the angel will also be without error and absolutely reliable. The same is true of the observance of a commandment. If it is done correctly, a very holy angel is created. Whatever is lacking in one's observance, however, will also be lacking in that angel. It is certain that the power of an angel created from the study of Torah is much greater than that created through an observance. But one should not discuss these details at length. These angels are the Magidim mentioned in a number of books. They reveal themselves to individuals, teaching them mysteries and informing them of future events. These are angels created from the individual's own observance and study of Torah. These angels are the Magidim mentioned in a number of books. Most of the time, these Magidim do not reveal themselves to the individual, but sometimes they do. This depends on the nature of the person's soul, as well as his deeds. There is no need to dwell upon this at length. Some Magidim are absolutely true, these being created from Torah and observances done with perfection. Other Magidim occasionally speak falsely, mixing truth and falsehood. The reason for this is that when there is some falseness or ulterior motive in an observance, the angel created from it consists of both good and evil. The good aspect of such an angel speaks the truth, while the evil in it speaks falsehood. Some Magidim are created from the universe of Asiyah alone. These are created through deeds involving action, done without kavanah. Others are from the universe of Yetzirah, created from the study of Torah. There are also Magidim from the universe of Bria, and these are created from a person's meditations and thoughts when he is involved in studying the Torah and observing the commandments. In every universe, there are many different details, but there is no need to discuss this at length. My master, the Ari, gave a sign through which one can recognize a proper Magid. It must constantly speak the truth, motivate one to do good deeds, and not err in a single prediction. If it can explain the secrets and mysteries of the Torah, it is certainly reliable. From its words, one can recognize its level. The mystery of Ruach HaKodesh is this. It is a voice sent from on high to speak to a prophet or to one worthy of Ruach HaKodesh. But such a voice is purely spiritual, and such a voice cannot enter the prophet's ear until it clothes itself in a physical voice. The physical voice in which it clothes itself is the voice of the prophet himself when he is involved in prayer or Torah study. This voice clothes itself in his voice and is attached to it. It then enters the prophet's ear so that he can hear it. Without the physical voice of the individual himself, this could not possibly take place. The explanation is as follows. First, there is an earlier voice, from which the angel or Holy Spirit was created. This itself is the voice of prophecy. When this voice then comes to reveal the prophecy, it must clothe itself in that individual's present physical voice. This must be a voice expressed by the individual at the very moment that he is experiencing the prophecy. This is the mystery of the verse, "The Spirit of God speaks in me, and his word is on my tongue." 2 Samuel chapter 23, verse 2. The Spirit and Word are the original voice, created through his deeds. This is now resting on his tongue. It is literally emanating from his mouth, expressed in his speech, and therefore it literally speaks with his mouth. It is only then that he can hear it. This involves many details. This can also occur in another manner. This supernal voice can clothe itself in the voices of other saints from earlier generations. The two voices then come together and speak to the individual. It is impossible for the voice of such a saint to speak to the individual unless the two share the same soul root. Sometimes, however, it can also occur when the individual has done some deed that is associated with that saint in particular. When the voice is clothed in the individual's own speech, this is certainly a much higher level than when it is clothed in the speech of another saint. When one needs another saint, this is an indication that his own speech does not have the power to induce prophecy. This explains the difference between prophecy and Ruach HaKodesh. Prophecy is from the male aspect, while Ruach HaKodesh is from the female. The lower soul, Nefesh, is from the universe of Asiyah, which is associated with the name Adoshem. One should therefore meditate on the name Adoshem, binding it to the name Yud and He and Vav and He in the universe of Asiyah. He should then bind this to the name Ehyeh in the universe of Asiyah. He should then meditate on this, elevating the name Ehyeh of Asiyah and binding it to Adoshem of Yetzirah. Adoshem of Yetzirah should then be bound to Yud and He and Vav and He of Yetzirah. One proceeds in this manner through the universes of Yetzirah, Bria, and Atzilut, step by step, until he reaches Ehyeh of Atzilut. He should then bind Ehyeh of Atzilut to the very highest level, which is the infinite being, Ein Sof. There is another yichud that you must constantly keep before your eyes. Meditate on the name Elokim, with the letters spelled out, and the He spelled out with a Yud. Aleph, Lamed, He, Yud, Mem. This has a numerical value of 300. This is the same as the numerical value of Mem, Tzadi, Pei, Tzadi Sofi, which is Yud and He and Vav and He, transformed by the Atbash cipher. Meditate that Malchut, kingship, is called Elohim and includes 13 attributes. These parallel the 13 letters in the expansion of Elohim. The 13 attributes are introduced with the Tetragrammaton, as they are spelled out: Yud and He and Vav and He, Yud and He and Vav and He, a merciful and loving God. Exodus chapter 34, verse 6. The letters Yud and He and Vav and He are then transformed into Mem, Tzadi, Pei, and Tzadi Sofit. These are the qualities that a person must cultivate in order to attain enlightenment. When a person prays, studies Torah, or observes a commandment, he must be happy and joyful. He must have more pleasure than if he had reaped a great profit or had found 1,000 gold coins. The Talmud thus teaches that the sage Abaye was standing before Rava and was very joyous because he had just put on tefillin. The Torah states that the people were punished because you did not serve the Lord your God with joy and gladness of heart, because of the abundance of all things. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 47. You must rejoice in serving God, more than when you profit with the abundance of all the money in the world. The trait of sadness is a very bad quality, especially for one who wishes to attain wisdom and Ruach HaKodesh. There is nothing that can prevent enlightenment more than depression, even for those who are worthy. We find evidence for this from the verse, "And now bring a minstrel, and when the minstrel played, the hand of God came upon him." 2 Kings chapter 3, verse 15. The music was needed to dispel his sadness. The same is true of anger, which can prevent enlightenment completely. The sages thus teach, if a person becomes angry, if he is a prophet, his prophecy is taken away. Very important is the study of Torah. My master of blessed memory told me that one's main intent when studying Torah should be to bring enlightenment and the highest holiness to himself. Depend on this. One must therefore concentrate on binding his soul to its highest root through the Torah and attaching it there. His intent should be that through this, the rectification of the supernal man should be completed. This was God's ultimate intent when he created man and commanded him to study the Torah. There are other qualities that one must cultivate. These include humbleness, humility, and the fear of sin. These 3 traits should be cultivated to the ultimate degree. There are also traits that should be avoided to the ultimate degree. These include pride, anger, temper, frivolity, and malicious gossip. Even if one has good reason to display his temper, he should avoid it. One should also avoid idle chatter, although it is not as serious as the 5 things mentioned above. One should not display temper even to members of his family. Keep the Sabbath in action and speech, with all its particulars. This is very helpful for enlightenment. Sit in the synagogue with awe and trembling. The special meditation for this is of great help in attaining Ruach HaKodesh. My master also taught that prime path of Ruach HaKodesh is through care, and kavanah is the blessing over food. In this manner, one dispels the power of the husks, klipot, that have a hold on food, and attaches themselves to the person who eats it. When a person recites a blessing over food with kavanah, he removes these evil spiritual husks. In this manner, an individual purifies his body, making it spiritually transparent, prepared to receive holiness. My master stressed this very much. It is also important to wake up at midnight and recite the 111th Psalm. While reciting this, one should meditate on the letters Mem, Nun, Tzadi, Pei, Chaf Sofit as discussed elsewhere. This is very helpful for enlightenment. When you wear tefillin, meditate that the 4 parchments of the head tefillin parallel the 4 letters of the tetragrammaton. It is also important to have a set order of study each day and not miss it. This should include Bible, Mishnah, Talmud, and the Kabbalah, together with the proper meditations, as discussed elsewhere. It is important to be very careful regarding this. My master also said that it is good for a person to live in a house with windows open to the heavens, so that he can always lift his eyes to the heavens and gaze at them. He can then meditate on the miracle of God's creation, as it is written, "When I look at your heavens, the work of your fingers." Psalm 8, verse 4. The Zohar also says this about Nebuchadnezzar, who stated, "At the end of the days, I, Nebuchadnezzar, lifted my eyes to heaven, and my understanding returned to me, and I blessed the Most High." Daniel chapter 4, verse 31. It is therefore good for a person to constantly gaze at the heavens. This is something that will bring him wisdom, holiness, and fear of God. My master also told me that the root of all, when it comes to enlightenment, is the study of law, halakha. He gave me this reason. When a person delves deeply into a question of law, he should meditate how the shell, klipa, of a nut covers the kernel. The kernel is the concept of holiness. The shell consists of the questions that one has with regard to that question of law. This shell surrounds the law and does not permit the person to understand it. When he then resolves the question, he should have in mind that he is breaking the power of that shell and removing it from the holiness. The kernel, which is the law, is then revealed. If a person does not study the law and thereby break the shells, how can he come to the kernel, which consists of the wisdom of Kabbalah and the secrets of the Torah? One must therefore strive very much, studying and meditating in the above manner. I also heard that my master would always interpret each law in 6 ways. Then he would give it a 7th interpretation, which would involve its hidden mystery. This is related to the mystery of the 6 weekdays, which precede the 7th, which is the Sabbath. Rabbi Jonathan Sagis also told me in the name of my master that nothing is more important for a person who seeks enlightenment than immersion in the mikveh, since one must be pure at all times. However, I noticed that my master generally did not immerse during the 6 winter months. He had a rupture and was subject to sickness, and his mother did not allow him to immerse. Of this I am certain. But as a result of this, he did not lose any enlightenment whatsoever. Rabbi Abraham Halevi Bruchim told me that my master once gave him advice regarding enlightenment. He was told to avoid idle conversation, to rise at midnight, and to weep regarding his lack of knowledge. He was also instructed to go through the Zohar, hesitating only to understand the text, but not probing it in depth. In this manner, he was to cover 40 or 50 pages a day, until he had gone through the entire Zohar many times. I once asked my master why he was worthy of all this wisdom. He replied that he had worked very hard at it. I countered, "The Ramak and I, Chaim, also worked very hard." He answered, "Yes, you worked very hard, more than anyone else in this generation, but you did not work as hard as me." On many occasions, he would stay up all night, pondering a single passage in the Zohar. Sometimes he would spend an entire week meditating, hit boded, on a single teaching of the Zohar. At such times, he would virtually go without sleep completely. Rabbi Samuel Useida told me that he heard my master say that if a person does not engage in any mundane speech whatsoever for 40 days, he will attain wisdom and enlightenment. I also heard from my master the mystery of entrusting the soul. This involves the ascent of the soul at night in the mystery of, "Into your hand I entrust my spirit," Psalm 31, verse 6. There is no question that if a person is a tzaddik, saint, and is perfect in all his deeds, then his soul will ascend on high each night. This is stated explicitly in the Zohar. But even if a person is not perfect, there are some practices that have the specific power to elevate his soul at night. One need not do them all. Only one done properly is sufficient. If one does this, then his soul will ascend on high for that night alone. The only time that this will fail is if he has some major unrepented sin, which prevents him from ascending. But we are only speaking about the individual who walks in the ways of God and does not sin purposefully. There are 6 methods, and each one is sufficient by itself, if done properly. The first method is that on that particular day, the individual should have perfect kavanah in his prayers. If he does this, then in the falling on the face in the morning prayer, he will bring about the supernal coupling. This is the mystery of the verse, "Who shall ascend to God's mountain?" Psalm 24, verse 3. The verse is speaking of the person who can ascend at night to the upper Garden of Eden, this being God's mountain. The verse itself then replies, "He of clean hands and pure heart, who does not lift his soul in vain." This is speaking of the person who lifts his soul through the mystery of the feminine waters in the falling on the face, when he says in that prayer, "To you, O God, I lift my soul." Psalm 25, verse 1. The individual who does this with kavanah does not lift his soul in vain. He is literally lifting his soul, and through this, bringing about the supernal coupling. Such an individual can certainly have his soul rise at night, ascending to God's mountain, his holy place. This is because he had brought about the supernal coupling between Jacob and Leah, which takes place each night after midnight. Then, through the mystery of the feminine waters, his soul also ascends to this place, as we have explained elsewhere. The second method involves giving charity properly on that day. This means that he should not know to whom he is giving, and the recipient should not know from whom he is receiving. It is also necessary that such charity be given to a proper individual, one who is truly in need and worthy of it. The third method involves wearing tefillin the entire day. One must not take his mind off from them during this entire period. While wearing them, he should meditate on the short meditation for tefillin, which we have presented elsewhere. The fourth method involves bringing merit to the guilty. On that day, one should prevent a wicked person from committing some sin and bring him to repent that one sin. Alternatively, he should speak to that person about repenting. This will bear fruit that will be of great benefit. The fifth method involves concentrating and recalling every sin that one has done the entire day. This should be done when the individual is lying in bed. All of his sins should be before his eyes, and he should repent them all. After saying the bedtime Shema, he should also confess them verbally, as explained in our writings. The Zohar speaks of individuals who use this method, calling them masters of nightly reckonings. It is important not to omit even a single sin or fine point that one transgressed on that particular day. When going to sleep, he should confess them all before God, and not forget even a single one. It appears that I heard from my master, however, that it is not necessary to review all that one had done that day, since this would be an endless task. But one must strive to do so, setting his heart to remember all that he had done wrong that day. This is sufficient. My master also taught me a meditation that can be used with any observance, such as charity and prayer. This involves meditating on the tetragrammaton, Yud and He and Vav and He, and uniting the name Yud and He, which is separated from Vav and He. Before any observance, one should say, "I am doing this to unite the name of the Blessed Holy One, male, and his divine presence, female, with reverence and love and reverence, in the name of all Israel. He should then meditate that he is combining the letters Yud and He, which represent love and reverence, with the letters Vav and He, which represent the Blessed Holy One, Zer Anpin, the male, and his divine presence, Shekhinah, the female. When a person gives charity, he takes in his hand a coin, which in Hebrew is a prutah. He should meditate on this word and contemplate that the letters of prutah and prat vav he, a detail of vav he, are the same. The root of all judgments is the 288 sparks, which fell from Atzilut to Bria when the vessels were shattered. Add to this a unit representing the whole, and you have 299, the numerical value of Prat. These judgments themselves are in Malchut, kingship, the female, which is the final He of the Tetragrammaton. When a person binds this He to the Vav, which represents Zer Anpin, the male, then these judgments are ameliorated in every detail, Prat. This is accomplished through charity. When a person wishes to repent, it is good to read the 20th Psalm and meditate on the mystical name Yud Bet Kuf that appears twice in this psalm. The first such reference is in the initial verse, God will answer you in a day of trouble. Ya'ancha, Yud and He and Vav and He, B'yom Tzara, where the initial letters are Yud, Yud, Bet, Tzadi. These add up to 112, the numerical value of Yud, Bet, Kuf. The second such reference is more explicit, in the last verse of this psalm. The king will answer us in the day we call. Ya'anenu v'yom korenu. Here, the initial letters themselves spell out Yud, Bet, Kuf. Regarding the practical Kabbalah, I once asked my master the reason why the practical Kabbalah is forbidden in all the later Kabbalistic texts. How did Rabbi Ishmael, Rabbi Akiva, and the other sages of the Hechalot make use of fearsome names to open their hearts? He replied that, at that time, the ashes of the red heifer were available, through which they could purify themselves of all defilement. Now, however, we are all defiled by the dead, and we do not have the ashes of the red heifer, which is the only means of removing this defilement. It does not help when we purify ourselves from other defilement when that resulting from contact with the dead remains as it was. We are therefore no longer permitted to make use of these holy names, and one who does so can be punished very severely. Rabbi Eliyahu Davidas told me that he had also asked my master this question. How did earlier generations make use of the divine names? He replied that one may use them if he can fulfill in himself the verse, Maidens, Al-Mot, love you, Song of Songs, chapter 1, verse 3. The Talmud says, do not read Al-Mot, maidens, but Al-Mot, over death, making the verse read, the one over death loves you. This means that one must be so righteous that he is even loved by the angel of death. If a person does not have any sin, the accuser cannot come before the Blessed Holy One and say, behold, this person is making use of your names, and on that day he committed such a sin. When such an accusation is made, that person is punished from heaven for making use of God's names. But if he is totally without sin, then there is no way in which he can be denounced. The angel of death, who is identified with the accuser, becomes his friend. Such a person can make use of divine names and not be punished. This is alluded to in the Hechalot, which states that one should not enter the orchard, Pardes, unless he has never violated any negative commandment of the Torah. We also see a case when Rabbi Nehunya ben Hakana was meditating, Hit Boded, and gazing into the orchard, Pardes. Rabbi Ishmael and Rabbi Akiva touched him with the gown of a woman who was only questionably unclean, and he was dismissed immediately from before the throne of glory. We therefore see proof to both of my master's replies. On another occasion, this same Rabbi Eliyahu Davidas received a somewhat different reply from my master. He said that the names and amulets that are now found in various manuscripts all contain errors. Even names and amulets that have been tested and found effective are still full of errors. It is therefore forbidden to make use of them. If we knew the names correctly, however, then we would also be permitted to use them. One who makes use of the practical Kabbalah therefore blemishes his soul. His penitence is to roll 9 times in the snow. He must undress completely, and while totally nude, roll back and forth in the snow. This must be done 9 times. It should be done in a totally secluded place. This is alluded to in the verse, "When the Almighty is articulated, kings are in her. It will snow in deep shadows." Psalm 68, verse 15. It is speaking of a person who articulates the Almighty's names, which are called kings. It is for this reason that the initial letters of the words, "When the Almighty is articulated, kings," Bifaresh Shaddai Melachim, spell out Bashem, meaning with the name. When a person articulates such divine names and pronounces them with his lips, then he is punished in the Gehinnom of snow. It is known that Gehinnom has 2 chambers, one of snow and the other of fire. The verse therefore concludes, "It will snow in deep shadow," indicating that this person will be condemned to the Gehinnom of snow. It is for this reason that his penitence must also be through snow. When a person makes use of divine names, he causes great evil for himself. Through these names, he binds angels by an oath, coercing them to do his will. These same angels then come and cause him to sin, destroying him completely. Since he uses God's name incorrectly, they will cause him to take God's name in vain in other matters, such as blessings, since one sin brings on another. Introductions for the use of Yichudim. First introduction. When a person meditates through a Yichud, souls of the righteous attach themselves to him and reveal themselves. Sometimes a soul will do this because it comes from the same root as the person who is meditating. At other times, it is because the individual does some good deed that pertains particularly to that saint. The saint then comes to him through the mystery of nativity, Ibur. One such saint who reveals himself is Benaiah ben Yehoyada. He comes particularly when one meditates with a yichud that elevates the feminine waters, which consists of spiritual energy that ascends from below. This is his mystery. There are many saints who meditated with Yichudim during their lifetime, and they knew how to time this so that it would be accepted by the supernal will. At such times, they would make use of Yichudim and transmit great benefit to themselves. Usually, when a person makes use of a yichud, he can only do so through the aspect of his soul root. But if one uses the yichud at an auspicious time, he can then bring all the supernal roots together, and this is a very great advantage. In general, when a saint dies, he causes all the universes to unite. But there are saints who knew how to use yichudim at auspicious times, and they could do this even during their lifetime. What other saints could accomplish only after death, they could do while they were still alive. One such saint was Benaiah ben Yehoyada. It is for this reason that he was called Son of a Living Man, 2 Samuel chapter 23, verse 20, even after his death. This indicates that even when he was alive, he was able to unify all universes. He was therefore said to be from Kabtziel, which means gathering of God. This is because he gathered and united all universes. He was called Benayahu because of the Yichud through which he meditated and elevated the feminine waters. His name can be read as Ben and Yud, He, Vav. The letters Yud, He, Vav denote the Sefirah of Tiferet, beauty, Zer Anpin, the male, who gives Ruach, spirit, to the feminine waters. The feminine waters themselves are called Ben, which is the fourth expansion of the Tetragrammaton, when they are in the female Partsuf. It is for this reason that he is called Benaya, Ben, Yud, He, Vav. He is also called son of a living man, Ben Ish Chai. Ben denotes the Tetragrammaton expanded with Hays, which is called Ben, 52. This Tetragrammaton is derived from the Sefirah of Yesod, foundation, which is called Ish Chai, a living man, or a man of life. There were other saints who resembled him in this respect. They included Moses, Rabbi Hamnuna the Elder, Rabbi Yebi the Elder, and others like them. These saints were worthy of a very high level during their lifetime. Therefore, even after they died, whenever they see sages studying the Torah and meditating on higher Yichudim, they join them and reveal themselves. Sometimes they are there, but they remain concealed. Such saints can bind themselves to people even if they do not share the same soul root. The reason is that they bound together all universes, and therefore include them all. These saints reveal the mysteries of the Torah to certain individuals. The general concept explains how Rabbi Hamnuna the Elder and Benaiah ben Yehoyada revealed themselves to Rabbi Eliezer, son of Rabbi Shimon, and Rabbi Abba, as mentioned in the Zohar. It also explains why the elder said, "Whenever I find sages, I follow them." When the soul of a saint reveals himself to an individual who shares the same soul root, then this individual gains very great enlightenment. Even though they can also reveal themselves to one who does not share their soul root, the influence is all the greater when they do share it, since they are then rectified through his rectification. If a person begins meditating with a particular yichud and then stops, he can cause himself great harm. If he abandons it for 1 day, it will abandon him for 2. The souls that wish to bind themselves to him will then abandon him and repel him. Do not say that the study of Torah is greater, and it is not fitting to neglect it in order to meditate on Yichudim. For the Yichudim that are mentioned here are more important than the study of Torah. Through them, one can unify the supernal universes. This is considered to be a combination, including both Torah study and meditation. Even if souls do not reveal themselves to you, do not be concerned, and do not stop meditating. Your intent should not be to bring souls to yourself, but to rectify the supernal universes. Second introduction. It is very beneficial to meditate on a yichud while lying prostrate on the grave of a saint. When you do so, contemplate that through your own position, you are causing the saint to prostrate his soul and infuse the bones in his grave. This causes him to come to life in a sense, since his bones become like a body for the soul that infuses them. This soul is that which remains in the grave, this being the mystery of the verse, "His soul mourns for him." Job chapter 14, verse 22. At this time, as a result of your yichud, it is as if both the body and soul of the saint were alive. If you are not on a grave, but meditate on yichudim at home, you need not have this intent. But at all times, whether on a grave or at home, it is beneficial to contemplate that your soul and that of the saint are bound together, with your soul included in his, and that the two of them are ascending together. You should also meditate on the root where your soul and that of the saint are bound to Adam. contemplate on arousing that place, which is the limb where the saint is bound to Adam. As a result of that limb, you can elevate the saint's soul through the mystery of feminine water. Thus, for example, imagine that the root of the saint is in the right arm of Adam, and that you also share this same root. After the saint died, he ascended from the arm to the head. Your soul, however, is still in the arm. Each and every such root is a complete partsuf, human form. If, for example, your soul is derived from the heel of that partsuf, contemplate that you are elevating it from the heel to the head. Your soul will then bind itself to that of the saint. The two souls together are then motivated, and you too can ascend through the mystery of the feminine waters. If you have reached the level of neshama, you should motivate your neshama to ascend with that of the saint. If you have attained only ruach, you should motivate only your ruach. The same is true if you have only the level of nefesh. The most important thing is that you must do this with powerful yearning and joy. Your soul should be completely divested from the physical. Yichudim. The first Yichud. This is a unification of chokhmah, wisdom, and binah, understanding. Meditate on the name Yud and He and Vav and He in chokhmah, wisdom. Then meditate on the name Ehyeh in binah, understanding. Now bind the two names together, meditating on the combination, which is Yud, Aleph, He, Vav, Yud, He. This is the upper union. Then meditate on the name that unites the two. This is Ab, 72, the tetragrammaton expanded with Yuds. This expansion has a numerical value of 72, the same as that of Chesed, love. This is the upper Chesed, which brings about the higher union. It is called destiny, mazla, and it is created through the neshama of the saint when he ascends on high in binah, understanding. This involves the feminine waters of binah, understanding. It is the mystery of the statement, thus has it arisen in thought, since thought is binah, understanding. Now, meditate on Yud and He and Vav and He in Tiferet, beauty. Then meditate on Adoshem in Malchut, kingship. Bind the two names together, and then meditate on the combination, which is Yud, Aleph, He, Dalid, Vav, Nun, He, Yud. This is the lower union. Then meditate on the name that unites the two. This is Ma, 45, the tetragrammaton expanded with olives. This is made through the ruach of the saint. The nefesh of the saint provides the feminine waters for this union. Thus, the lower union requires the ruach and the nefesh. The ruach motivates the union, while the nefesh provides the feminine waters. For the upper union, however, all that is required is neshama. This is because neshama also includes the neshama of the neshama, which is the chaya. The neshama of the neshama, which is associated with chokhmah, wisdom, motivates the union. The neshama itself, which is associated with binah, understanding, is the mystery of the feminine waters. It therefore resembles the lower union. In the lower union, ruach, which is associated with tiferet, beauty, motivates the union. The nefesh, which is associated with malchut, kingship, then stimulates the feminine waters. There are 4 ways to expand the tetragrammaton. It can be expanded with yuds to form ab, having a numerical value of 72. It can be expanded to form Sag, which has a numerical value of 63. It can be expanded with Alephes to form Ma, having a numerical value of 45. And it can be expanded with Hays to form Ben, having a numerical value of 52. The tetragrammaton expanded with Yuds, adding up to 72, Ab, motivates the union of Chokhmah, wisdom, father, and Binah, understanding, mother, through the neshama of the saint. It is associated with Chokhmah, wisdom. The tetragrammaton adding up to 63, Sag, then elevates the feminine waters through the neshama of the saint. This is associated with Binah, understanding. The tetragrammaton adding up to 45, Ma, then motivates the union between Tiferet, beauty, male, and Malchut, kingship, female, through the Ruach of the saint. It is associated with Tiferet, beauty, Zer Anpin. The tetragrammaton adding up to 52, Ben, then elevates the feminine waters through the Nefesh of the saint. This is associated with Malchut, kingship, the female Partsuf. Review all of this carefully and understand it well. In short, place the 4 letters of the tetragrammaton, Yud and He and Vav and He, before your eyes and meditate on them. Contemplate that you are uniting the Blessed Holy One, male, with his divine presence, female. This is the union of the letters Vav, He of the tetragrammaton. This union takes place through love and reverence, which are the letters Yud, He. Then, meditate on Yud and He and Vav and He in Chokhmah, wisdom, where it has the vowel point Patach. Then, meditate on the name Ehyeh in Binah, understanding. Then, bind them together. Yud, Aleph, He, He, Vav, Yud, He, He. This is done through Ab, which is the tetragrammaton expanded with Yuds, and is motivated by the neshama of the saint. This is associated with Chokhmah, wisdom, which is the first letter, Yud, of the tetragrammaton. Then contemplate that you are elevating the feminine waters from Binah, understanding, which is a motivation from below. This is done through the tetragrammaton expanded as Sag, and it is motivated by the neshama of the saint. This is associated with Binah, understanding, which is the second letter, He, of the tetragrammaton. Then meditate on Yud and He and Vav and He in Tiferet, beauty, where it has the vowel point Cholam. Then meditate on the name Adoshem in Malchut, kingship. Then bind them together. Yud, Aleph, He, Daled, Vav, Nun, He, Yud. This is done through Ma, which is the tetragrammaton expanded with Alephs, and is motivated by the Ruach of the saint. This is associated with Tiferet, beauty, which is the third letter, Vav, of the tetragrammaton. Then contemplate that you are elevating the feminine waters from Malchut, kingship. This is done through Ben, which is the tetragrammaton expanded with Hays, and is motivated by the Nefesh of the saint. This is associated with Malchut, kingship, which is the fourth letter, He, of the tetragrammaton. When you meditate on a Yichud involving the saint's neshama, have in mind to bind your neshama to his. The same is true with regard to the Ruach and Nefesh. If you do this, you will be completely bound to the saint, and you will be worthy of knowing all that you desire and receiving answers to all that you ask. This, however, requires great concentration. You must clear your mind of all thought and divest your soul from your body. If you do not do this correctly, you can be guilty of death, heaven forbid. If you are yourself worthy of neshama, as well as the lower levels of neshama, ruach and nefesh, then all four levels will be bound to those of the saint. You will then attain an extremely high level of enlightenment. If you have only the lower levels of the soul, your enlightenment will be correspondingly less. Through your devotion, you can increase your attachment and enlightenment. Through this, God will reveal to you the wonders of His Torah and bring you close to Him in worship, love, and reverence. The Zohar teaches that a saint's nefesh remains in the grave, his ruach is in the Garden of Eden, while his neshama is under the throne of glory. This, however, is only speaking of a person whose nefesh is from Asiyah, whose ruach is from Yetzirah, and whose neshama is from Briyah. There are saints, however, who are worthy that all three levels of their soul, nefesh, ruach, and neshama, are all from Atzilut. In such a case, there is no question that his nefesh ascends to Malchut, kingship, in Atzilut, his ruach ascends to Tiferet, beauty, and his neshama ascends to Binah, understanding. This is because all things return to their root. The nefesh that remains in the grave is therefore only the nefesh of Asiyah. The Tikkun Zohar states that the tetragrammaton expanded as Sag is the mystery of the feminine waters of Binah, understanding. Through this, the son, Zer Anpin, ascends upward to the Partsuf of Father. The souls of saints are the feminine waters of Malchut, kingship, the female Partsuf. In a similar manner, Zer Anpin and the female, which are the children of Binah, understanding, mother, serve as her feminine waters. Tiferet, beauty, Zer Anpin, then ascends through the mystery of Dat, knowledge, to unite Chokhmah, wisdom, and Binah, understanding, through Ab, the tetragrammaton expanded with Yuds. Malchut, kingship, then remains in the mystery of the feminine waters of Binah, understanding, through the tetragrammaton expanded as Sag. Understand this well. I copied all of this from an actual manuscript written by my master. What follows was heard from him orally. The third Yichud. The name Ma is the tetragrammaton expanded with Alephs. When this is squared, it has a numerical value of 130. This is the mouth of Atika Kadisha, the ancient Holy One. Atika Kadisha is the Partsuf that parallels the upper part of Keter, crown, and it is the highest Partsuf in Atzilut. This is the mystery of the verse, who placed a mouth in man, Adam. Exodus chapter 4, verse 11. The name Ma has a numerical value of 45, the same as that of Adam, meaning man. The square of Ma is 130. Subtract from this 45, which is the numerical value of Ma itself. You then have 85, which is the numerical value of Pe, meaning mouth. Therefore, if you add mouth, 85, to man, 45, you have 130. This is the outer essence of this mouth. The inner essence of the mouth, however, is the tetragrammaton expanded as Sag. From our other teachings, you already know that there is a union in the mouth itself. This involves the throat, which gives rise to the letters Aleph, He, Chet, Ein, and the palate, which produces the letters Gimel, Yud, Chaf, Kuf. This then produces the other three phonetic groups, making a total of 22 letters. The inner essence of the nose of Atika Kadisha is the tetragrammaton expanded as Sag. Its outer essence consists of the three names Ehyeh. These emanate from the three alephs that are in the name Ma. The name Ma is in the mouth of Atika Kadisha, as mentioned above. The three alephs are transmitted upward and become the outer essence of the nose. We can now write the Yichud in brief. This is how you should meditate. First, meditate on the name Ma, the tetragrammaton expanded with alephs. This is the mouth of Atika Kadisha. Then, meditate on the three alephs in this name and draw them upward. Now, form each of these alephs into the name Ehyeh. Draw these three names upward and form the outer essence of the nose of Atika Kadisha. Meditate on these three names, Ehyeh, with the vowel point of kamatz. Kamatz corresponds to keter, crown, which is the parallel of Atika Kadisha. Contemplate that the name Ehyeh has a numerical value of 21. The three names, therefore, have a numerical value of 63, the same as that of Chotem, which means nose. The kamatz has the form of a vav and a yud. The vav has a value of 6, and the yud has a value of 10, so therefore, the value of the kamatz is 16. Meditate on the kamatzes in the names Ehyeh. Since there are 4 such vowels in the name, their total numerical value is 64. This is the numerical value of Chotem, plus a unit for the word itself. Meditate on the vowels, and contemplate that from this nose there emanates great life force to the male and female. From the right nostril there emanates spiritual essence, ruach, to Zeir Anpin, the male. From the left nostril, spiritual essence emanates to the female. This motivates their union. This motivation of the female, however, will only take place in the Messianic age. At that time, she will be motivated by the essence from the left nostril. Now, however, she must be motivated by the souls of the righteous. These two essences, the right and the left, are alluded to in the vowel points. The 4 vowels kamatz in each of the 3 names have a numerical value of 64. Meditate on this, and contemplate that it alludes to the expansion of the tetragrammaton as sag, which has a value of 63, plus an additional unit for the whole. This motivates spiritual essence for Zeir Anpin, the male. Now meditate again on the 4 vowels kamatz, which have a numerical value of 64. Add to this a unit representing the whole, and you have 65, the numerical value of Adoshem, the name associated with the female. This alludes to the fact that from these vowels, a life spirit is transmitted to the female of Zeir Anpin. Then, meditate on the inner essence of this nose, which is the name Sag. The first Hey Yud of this expansion is the female of the right nostril. The Hey in this pair conceals the Yud because Hey is feminine, and all of this takes place in an aspect of the feminine waters. The second Hey Yud in Sag is the female of the left nostril. The Vav is the septum that separates these 2 orifices. All that now remains is Yud. This represents the 2 Yuds which are concealed in the 2 nostrils. The initial letter Yud is the spiritual essence which is concealed in the right nostril. It is the Yud concealed inside the first Hey Yud. From this comes the life force that motivates Zeir Anpin, the male, toward the union. The 2 letters Vav, Dalid, in Yud, also have a numerical value of 10. This is the second Yud concealed in the left nostril, which is the final He. From this comes life force to the female, the bride of Zer Anpin, to motivate the union. Meditate in this manner, so as to complete the inner essence and outer essence of the nose. Then meditate to bring about the union in the mouth of Atika Kadisha in this manner. First, contemplate that the inner essence of the breath of this mouth is the name Sag. Then, intertwine this with the name Ehye. Contemplate the fact that Sag has a value of 63 and Ehye has a value of 21, making a total of 84. This is the numerical value of all the gutturals, Aleph, Chet, He, Ein. These letters are sounded with the throat, which corresponds to the female. Then, meditate on the palatals, Gimel, Yud, Chaf, Kuf. These are sounded with the palate, which corresponds to the male. Meditate on Gimel, Yud, Chaf, Kuf, and intertwine them with Aleph, Chet, He, Ein. Contemplate on the fact that Aleph, Chet, He, Ein has a value of 84, and Gimel, Yud, Chaf, Kuf has a value of 133, making a total of 217. Subtract a unit for the whole, and you have 216. This is 3 times 72, and it gives rise to the other 3 phonic groups, the dentals, the labials, and the sibilants. The first group are the dentals, Dalid, Tet, Lamed, Nun, Taf, which are pronounced with the tongue. This parallels the union of father, Chokhmah, and mother, Binah. Yud and He and Vav and He, and Ehye. This takes place through Dat, knowledge, which is the tongue. Then take the sibilants, Zayin, Shin, Samech, Resh, Tzadi, which are produced by the teeth. These parallel the union of Yud and He and Vav and He and Elokim. Elokim has 5 letters, paralleling the 5 strengths, and these are the 5 sibilants. Then take the labials, Bet, Vav, Mem, Pe, which are produced with the lips. They represent the mystery of the union of Yud and He and Vav and He and Adoshem. This is the external union opposite the mouth, produced by the union of the 2 lips. Now, meditate that each of these 3 categories corresponds to the name Yud, He, Vav. Each of these 3 names, Yud, He, Vav, has a numerical value of 21. The 3 of them together, therefore, have a numerical value of 63, which is the numerical value of the name Sag. But as we have seen, this is the inner essence of the mouth, and this is from where these sounds emanate. Now, contemplate on each of the 3 names Yud, He, Vav, and expand each one in the same manner that Sag is expanded. This expansion has a numerical value of 48, which is the sum of Yud and He and Vav and He, which equals 26, and Ehye, which equals 21, adding a unit for the whole. Thus, we are constantly uniting the 2 names Yud and He and Vav and He and Ehye. Now, meditate on these 3 names. Also, meditate on the gutturals, Aleph, Chet, He, Ein, and the palatals, Gimel, Yud, Chaf, Kuf, which have a numerical value of 216. When these three names emanate from 216, they are drawn into the mouth. They then become the vapor, Hevel, that emanates from the mouth. At this point, however, they cannot yet emanate, but are only drawn to the mouth. You must therefore meditate on each of the three previously mentioned names, Yud, He, Vav, expanded with Yuds, like Ab. Now place under each letter the two vowel points Kamatz and Shva. You should have before your eyes a column of three such names. Now, meditate that the two letters He, Vav, in each of these names have a numerical value of 37. This is the numerical value of Hevel, meaning vapor. This is because they represent the vapor that emanates from the mouth. The Shva consists of two dots, and each of these two dots can be seen as a Yud. The Shva therefore consists of two Yuds. As mentioned earlier, the Kamatz consists of a Yud and a Vav. The vowel point of each letter is a Shva and a Kamatz, and this consists of three Yuds and a Vav. This has a numerical value of 36, and adding a unit for the whole, it yields 37. This, too, is the numerical value of Hevel, meaning vapor, for the same reason given above. Now, meditate on these three names. Bring them into the mouth of Atika Kadisha and bind them there. Now, meditate that the essence of this mouth, the square of the name Ma, from which Ma itself is subtracted. This has a numerical value of 85, which is the same as that of Pe, meaning mouth. As mentioned at the beginning of this Yichud, this is the outer essence of the mouth. You should now meditate on the inner essence of the mouth, which is the tetragrammaton expanded as Sag. Add this name, which has a numerical value of 63, to the 22 letters of the alphabet. The total will then be 85, which is the numerical value of Pe, meaning mouth. Now, meditate to bring these three names, Yud, He, Vav, from inside the mouth to the outside. This is the mystery of the vapor, Hevel, that emanates from the mouth. It is also an aspect of enveloping light, or makif. It is well established that all vapor that comes from the mouth is enveloping light. Do not draw it all outside, however. One name, Yud and He and Vav and He, must remain inside the mouth. This is made from all three names, Yud, He, Vav, in the following manner. Yud is taken from the first name. He is taken from the second name. Vav He is taken from the third name. This remains inside. The rest emanate in the mystery of vapor, Hevel. The letters that emanate are He Vav, that remains from the first name, Yud Vav, that remains from the second name, Yud, that remains from the third name. All of these letters, He Vav, Yud Vav, and Yud, together have a numerical value of 37. This is the numerical value of Hevel, meaning vapor. Now, meditate on these letters. They should be expanded with Yuds, together with the vowel points Shva and Kamatz. Contemplate that you are bringing these out through the mystery of the vapor that emanates from the mouth, which is the enveloping light. This then encompasses the nose. Both the inner essence and outer essence of the nose are drawn to this place, which is outside the mouth of Atika Kadisha. The essence of the nose then becomes the inner light, or pnimi, which is clothed in the vapor from the mouth, which is its enveloping light. Now, meditate that you are bringing about the following 3 unions: Yud and He and Vav and He and Ehyeh, Yud and He and Vav and He and Elokim, and Yud and He and Vav and He and Adoshem. The first union, Yud and He and Vav and He and Ehyeh, is that of father and mother. Meditate on these names in the following manner: Father, Yud and He and Vav and He, with Kamatz and Shva. Mother, Ehyeh, with Kamatz. Now, meditate on the 2 expansions. These come from the first name, Yud, He, Vav. Meditate that you are bringing down these 2 expansions from the vapor of the mouth, which is the encompassing light. All letters should have the vowel points Kamatz and Shva. Bring down these 2 expansions and draw them into the name Yud and He and Vav and He, which represents father, since this will motivate him toward the union. It is for this reason that when you meditate on the name Yud and He and Vav and He representing father, each letter has the vowel points Kamatz and Shva. These vowel points represent vapor, Hevel, as discussed earlier. Now, meditate that you are bringing down the inner essence of this vapor, which is the outer essence of the nose. As discussed earlier, the outer essence of the nose consists of 3 names Ehyeh with the vowel point Kamatz. Meditate on the first of these 3 names. Bring this name down and draw it into the name Ehyeh, which represents mother, since this will motivate her toward union. When you meditate on the name Ehyeh, representing mother, it should have the vowel point Kamatz. Now, meditate on the expansion. This is derived from the first name Yud, He, Vav. This is the vapor of the mouth. Meditate how these letters represent the vapor, Hevel. The letters themselves, He, Yud, Vav, Yud, Vav, have a numerical value of 37, the same as that of Hevel, meaning vapor. The vowel points, Kamatz and Shva, also have the numerical value of Hevel, as discussed earlier. Meditate that from these 2 vapors, the internal and the external, motivation is transmitted to father and mother, which are Yud and He and Vav and He and Ehyeh, so that they come together in union. Motivating the union of father and mother. The vapor of the mouth is transmitted to father. The light of the external essence of the nose is transmitted to mother. Now, contemplate that you are elevating the neshama of the saint with whom you desire to commune through the mystery of the feminine waters. Contemplate that you are arousing the place in Adam's body to which this neshama soul is bound. Bind your soul to his soul in the manner described earlier. Now, meditate in the 2 names representing father and mother. Intertwine these 2 names. Now, you are ready to bring about the second union. Meditate on the 2 names Yud and He and Vav and He and Elokim. Then, meditate on the letters Yud, Vav, Daled, Vav, Yud, Vav, from the second name Yud, He, Vav. This is the vapor of the mouth, that is the enveloping light. Bring this down to the name Yud and He and Vav and He in Tiferet, Zer Anpin. When you meditate on this name Yud and He and Vav and He, its vowels should be shva and kamatz. This motivates Zeir Anpin toward the union. Contemplate to draw the inner essence of this vapor, which is the inner essence of the nose. Meditate that you are bringing this from the Yud in the right nostril, mentioned above, to this name Yud and He and Vav and He in Tiferet, Zeir Anpin, motivating him toward union. Then, meditate to bring down the inner essence of this vapor, which is the outer essence of the nose. Contemplate the second of the three names Ehyeh, that comprise the outer essence of the nose, with the vowel kamatz. Draw this down to the name Elokim, meditating on this name with the vowel kamatz. Then, meditate to draw the inner essence of the nose from the letters Vav, Daled, in the left nostril. Bring this into the name Elokim, so as to motivate the female partsuf toward union. Then, meditate to elevate the Ruach spirit of the saint, along with your own Ruach spirit, in the same manner mentioned above with respect to the Neshama. Then, intertwine the two names Yud and He and Vav and He with Kamatz and Shva, and Elokim with Kamatz. You are now ready to bring about the third union. Meditate on the two names Yud and He and Vav and He and Adoshem. Then, meditate on the letter Yud from the third name Yud He Vav. This is the vapor of the mouth that is the enveloping light. Bring this down to the name Yud and He and Vav and He, representing Zeir Anpin. When you meditate on the name Yud and He and Vav and He, its vowels should all be Kamatz Shva. Contemplate to draw the inner essence of this vapor, which is the outer essence of the nose. Contemplate the third of the three names Ehyeh, that comprise the outer essence of the nose, with the vowel Kamatz. This draws it into the name Adoshem, as mentioned, so as to motivate the female partsuf to union. Then, meditate to elevate the nefesh soul of the saint, along with your own nefesh, in the manner discussed earlier with regard to the neshama. Then, intertwine the two names Yud and He and Vav and He and Adoshem. Finally, meditate on the two letters Vav, Daled, which have been drawn down to the female from the left nostril. Take the Vav and form it into the left leg of the He. Then, draw it under the Daled so as to form a He. This indicates that the female partsuf has become pregnant from this union. The fifth Yichud. The purpose of this Yichud is to repel and banish the outside forces. You may meditate on it after another Yichud. Meditate on the two names Elokim, Elokim. Then, intertwine the two names with the following vowels: Tzere, Tzere Segol, Tzere, and Patach. Contemplate that each name Elokim has a numerical value of 86, and therefore, the two names have a value of 172. Add to this an additional 10 for the 10 letters in both names, and you have 182, which is the numerical value of Jacob. Also contemplate that the vowel points have the same numerical value as Jacob. The first 8 letters all have the vowel point Tzere, except for the second Lamed, which has a Segol. The Tzere consists of 2 dots or Yuds, and thus has a numerical value of 20. The Segol consists of 3 dots or Yuds, and has a value of 30. The 7 Tzeres, therefore, have a total value of 140, and together with the 30 of the segol, this yields 170. This is the value of Ein Kuf of Jacob. The two letters mem have the vowel patach. This has the form of a headless vav, and therefore has a numerical value of 6. The two, therefore, have a numerical value of 12. This is the value of Yud Bet of Jacob. Combining Ein Kuf and Yud Bet then yields Jacob. The sixth Yichud. This Yichud is designed for a person who has meditated and has been worthy of experiencing his soul speaking to him. If he cannot actually express this communication with his lips, he should meditate with this Yichud before any other Yichud that he uses. This will allow him to bring his enlightenment from potential to action. Begin by meditating on the 3 expansions of the name Ehyeh. The first of these is expanded with Yuds and has a numerical value of 161. The second is expanded with Alephs and has a numerical value of 143. The third is expanded with Hays and has a numerical value of 151. Then, meditate on the triangulation of Ehyeh. Contemplate that this has a numerical value of 44. Add this to the 455 obtained earlier from the expansions, and you have a total of 499. Now, meditate on the name Tzvaot, meaning hosts, as in the Lord of Hosts. This name is in Yesod, foundation, in its aspect as the covenant of the tongue. Contemplate that the numerical value of the name Tzvaot is also 499. After you complete this, you can make use of any Yichud that you desire. The seventh Yichud. This is very similar to the previous one. If you begin to perceive something with your mouth through a Yichud, but can only move your lips without expressing sounds, make use of this Yichud. First, meditate with this, and then make use of any other Yichud that you desire. First, meditate on the names Ehyeh, Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey, and Adoshem. Intertwine them in direct order. Then, meditate on the same 3 names combined in reverse order. Contemplate this well, and then you can make use of any other Yichud that you may desire. The 10th Yichud. Begin by closing your eyes and holding them tightly shut. Meditate, hit boded, in this manner for 1 hour. Then, make use of the following Yichud. Meditate on the name of the angel Metatron. Divide the name into 3 parts. Contemplate that the numerical value of the first pair of letters, Mem Tet, is 49. These are the 49 gates of understanding, Binah. This is the total essence of Metatron. Meditate that this relates to the combination of the 2 names, Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey, and Ehyeh, intertwined. The name Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey has a value of 26, while Ehyeh has a value of 21, making a total of 47. Adding 2 for the 2 names themselves then yields 49, the numerical value of Mem Tet. Then, meditate on the second pair, Tet Resh. This is associated with the 2 combinations, one of Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey, and Elohim, and the other of Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey, and Adoshem. These must be intertwined. All of these names have a numerical value of 203. This is the numerical value of Be'er, meaning a well. The numerical value of Tet Resh is 209, so an additional 6 are required. These 6 are the first 6 letters of the above-mentioned combination of Yud and He and Vav and He and Eheyeh. 2 letters, He, He, are then left over from the original 8 of that combination. Contemplate on these together with the final 2 letters of Metatron, Vav, Nun Sofit. Elsewhere, we have discussed how the letters Vav, Nun Sofit are related to the mystery of judgment. There are 5 letters that change their form at the end of a word: Mem, Nun, Tzadi, Pei, Chaf. Taken together, these 5 letters have a numerical value of 280. This is 5 times 56, where 56 is the numerical value of Vav Nun Sofit. These are the 5 strengths of judgment. This is the significance of the 2 letters He, He. The numerical value of He is 5, denoting the 5 strengths of judgment. The first He denotes the 5 strengths represented in Mem, Nun, Tzadi, Pei, Chaf, while the second He represents those of the 5 combinations Vav, Nun Sofit. The 21st Yichud. This includes 3 beneficial Yichudim, along with 6 good meditations. The scribe writes, these are the Yichudim upon which a person should constantly meditate. It is very good for a person to depict the letters of the name Yud and He and Vav and He before the eyes of his mind. This brings a person's heart to fear his Creator and also purifies the soul. This is the significance of the verse, I have placed Yud and He and Vav and He before me at all times. Psalm 16, verse 8. Always meditate how you are created in the form of God. This is its significance. In the physical man, there is inner essence and outer essence. This also has a counterpart in the supernal man, Zer Anpin. The inner essence consists of the mentalities, Mochin, while the outer essence is the flesh. The mentalities permeate the entire body. This relates to the form, Tselem, of Yud and He and Vav and He. The 2 letters Yud, He parallel the 2 mentalities in man's head. The letter Vav is man's body, which is pervaded by the mentalities. The final He is the coronet of the foundation, which is man's mate. The outer essence alludes to the form, Tselem, of Elohim. Chaim Vital writes, I forgot the precise concept, but this is my best recollection. The Aleph of Elohim represents the counterpart of the Sefirah of Keter, crown, in man. This is his skull. The skull contains 2 cavities, in which the mentalities, brains, rest. This is the Aleph, which is Keter, crown. The Lamed in Elohim has a numerical value of 30. Since we assign a value of 10 to each mentality, this represents the 3 mentalities, Chokhmah, wisdom, Binah, understanding, and Dat, knowledge. The He in Elohim has a numerical value of 5. This represents the 5 corners in man, from Chesed to Hod. Chesed is the right arm, Gvurah is the left, Tiferet is the body, while Netzach and Hod are the 2 legs. The Yud in Elohim represents Yesod, foundation. The final Mem in Elohim is Malchut, kingship. It is the coronet of foundation, the female, who is the man's mate. This is the mystery of the verse, God, Elohim, created man in his form. In the form of God, Elohim, he created him. Genesis chapter 1, verse 27. The word form occurs twice in this verse, alluding to the two forms. The first is the form of Yud and He and Vav and He, which is alluded to in the word Tsalmo, translated as his form. This can also be read as Tselem Vav, that is, the form of Vav. The letter Vav has a numerical value of 6, representing the 6 Sefirot that form the Partsuf of Zer Anpin. This is Yud and He and Vav and He, and hence his form is the form of Yud and He and Vav and He. The second form is mentioned explicitly, and this is the form of Elohim. You must constantly meditate, making yourself into a vehicle for the holy Atzilut. It is thus written, "In the form of God he made man," Genesis chapter 5, verse 1, and "In the form of God he made man," Genesis chapter 9, verse 6. It is especially fitting and necessary that you meditate in this manner when you pray. Through this, your prayers will be accepted, and you will be answered. Through such meditations, you bind all the universes together, and the highest holiness then rests on you and pertains to you. This is how you should meditate. Prepare your head, so that it should be a throne for the name Yud and He and Vav and He with the vowel kamatz. The mentality of Chokhmah, wisdom, in it should be Yud and He and Vav and He with patach. The mentality of Binah, understanding, should be Yud and He and Vav and He with tzereh. The right hand should be with a segol. The left hand should be with a shva. The torso should be with a cholam. The right leg should be with a chirik. The left leg should be with a kubutz. The yesod foundation should be with a shuruk. Its coronet does not have any vowel at all. Then, contemplate that your ear is the tetragrammaton expanded as sag, with the final he left out. The reason for this is that the final he descends to the nose. The expansion sag has a numerical value of 63, but removing the he takes away 5, leaving 58. This is the numerical value of ozen, meaning ear. Through this meditation, you may be worthy that your ear should hear some lofty holiness when you pray. Then, meditate on your nose, contemplating that it is the expansion of sag. This has a numerical value of 63, the same as that of chotem, meaning nose, as discussed elsewhere in detail. Through this, you may be worthy of sensing the fragrance of holiness. Then, meditate on your mouth, contemplating that it is the expansion of sag, together with the 22 letters that are expressed by the mouth. Sag has a value of 63, and together with 22, the sum yields 85, the numerical value of pe, meaning mouth. In one's prayers, one may then be worthy of the level mentioned by King David when he said, "The Ruach spirit of Yud and He and Vav and He speaks in my mouth, and his word is on my tongue." 2 Samuel, chapter 23, verse 2. This is the meditation for the eyes. If one is in the universe of Asiyah, he should meditate on 5 simple tetragrammatons. Each tetragrammaton has a value of 26, so the 5 of them have a value of 130, the same as that of Ein, meaning eye. If you are in the universe of Yetzirah, meditate on these same 5 simple tetragrammatons, then expand them with olives to form the expansion of Ma. If you are in the universe of Briah, expand them as Sag. If you are in Atzilut, expand them with Yuds as Ab. When you walk in the street, meditate that your 2 feet are the Sefirot Netzach and Hod. When you look at something with your eyes, meditate that your eyes are Chokhmah and Binah. Meditate in this manner with regard to every part of your body. Also contemplate that you are a vehicle for the highest holiness. This is the meaning of the verse, "In all your ways know him." Proverbs chapter 3, verse 6. There is no question that if you constantly make use of these meditations, you will become like an angel of heaven. You will gain an enlightenment so that you will be able to know all that you desire. This is especially true if you do not interrupt this meditation, thinking of this constantly, and not separating your mind from it. Everything depends on your intensity of concentration and attachment on high. Do not remove this from before your eyes. The 5th Kavanah. On Monday and Thursday, you should meditate on the universe of Yetzirah, making use of the name El Shaddai. You should also meditate on the name of 42 letters, since this name is in Yetzirah. This name consists of 7 parts. Meditate on these 7 parts, and through them you can elevate your nefesh soul from Asiyah to Yetzirah. On Monday, meditate that the 2nd group, Kuf, Resh, Ein, Shin, Tet, Nun, Sofit, should dominate the other letters. Through this group you can then ascend. On Thursday, meditate that the 5th group, Chet, Bet, Kuf, Tet, Nun, Ein, should dominate. It is then necessary to bind the group associated with the final one, Shin, Kuf, Vav, Tzadi, Yud, Taf. This name pertains to the Sabbath, and your intent in meditation is to attain a level of enlightenment which is the Sabbath increase. On Monday, you must intertwine the associated name, Kuf, Resh, Ein, Shin, Tet, Nun, Sofit, with Shin, Kuf, Vav, Tzadi, Yud, Taf. On Thursday, you must intertwine the associated name Chet, Kuf, Bet, Tet, Nun, Ein, with Shin, Kuf, Vav, Tzadi, Yud, Taf. When you do this, it will enable the name associated with that particular day to receive illumination from the name pertaining to the Sabbath. The 6th Kavanah. This is a meditation through which you can elevate your nefesh soul from Asiyah to the universe of Yetzirah. Contemplate on the mystery of wings. Through wings, man can fly and ascend on high. A bird cannot fly except with its wings. Paralleling the wings of a bird are the arms of man. There are 5 loves, chasadim. These permeate the 6 directions of the body, which parallel the 6 Sefirot, chesed, gvura, tiferet, netzach, hod, and yesod. In the arms and the upper third of the torso, these loves are concealed. In the lower part of the body, they are revealed. It is for this reason that man flies with his arms, which are his wings, and not with his legs or other limbs. The loves in the arms are concealed and cannot expand or escape. They therefore exert pressure and oscillate in their effort to escape. This causes the arms to vibrate. The upper root of these loves is dat, knowledge, and this is their source. The loves that permeate the body are lights that are produced by the ones in dat, knowledge. The loves that pervade the body therefore attempt to fly upward. Since they cannot escape, however, they elevate the man along with them. It is for this reason that the wings parallel the arms more than any other limbs. This is the kavanah upon which you should meditate. Every ascent is through this name of 42. Meditate on your right arm, chesed. Contemplate that this is the name Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Yud, Taf, Tzadi. Then, meditate on your left arm, Gvurah. Contemplate that this is the name Kuf, Resh, Ein, Shin, Tet, Nun Sofit. Finally, meditate on the upper third of your torso, where the loves are hidden. Contemplate that this is Nun, Gimel, Dalid, Yud, Chaf, Shin. Through these three names, the loves that are in the arms and upper torso fly upward to their root, which is Dat, knowledge. When they ascend, they also take along the man and elevate him to the universe of Yetzirah. You will then be like a bird, flying in the air. If you wish to strengthen your power of light, meditate to bring down new loves from the Da'at knowledge of the Partsuf of Zer Anpin for the purpose of union. Through this, you will add strength to the loves. This will bring you to fly with greater strength, and you will be able to ascend from Asiyah to Yetzirah.